How do you honor a parent who has been difficult, insensitive, or abusive, and make sure you heal enough from that relationship so that you can be your best with your own children and your own adult responsibilities? The commandment, honor your father and mother. I've lived long enough that I have survived my parents and my in-laws. And after the last of our parents died, I looked at my wife Judy and I said, "Well, we're next." And so now we're on the line of being the senior parents that the children now look in on. I know that when either Hannah or Fritz, my younger daughter Fritz, come to visit, I hustle through the house to tidy it up because it's like having the visiting generals come to make sure that dad and mom are still able to be independent and do what needs to be done. So, I want the place to look good and look cared for and as good as possible. However, I'm discovering that it's harder and harder to do that. Back when I was early in my ministry, I was doing a little counseling with people, and I discovered that people had issues with parents, often moms, because moms loom so large in our lives early on. And I think part of the problem that we have as human beings is that when we're born, we are so dependent on our parents, and they are so big. And if we're lucky to have a parent who is loving and, is present and protecting us and all of this, they loom so large because compared to us as babies, as toddlers, as even children, they are huge. And so, part of the process as we get bigger and bigger, they seem to get smaller and smaller. And what we may have projected on them as being giants and magic workers and all like that as little kids, we discover as we grow up that our parents were very, very human. And it came to me finally that why would anybody want to be a parent? Because when you are a parent, you are set up for failure. No parent gets out of being a parent without having made so many mistakes and done so many hurtful and blunders and things of that sort, that it's the way it is. I keep saying mama never said it would be like this. There's a lot mama didn't say. We learn from our parents, good and bad. I love the t-shirt that I saw in one of my catalogs. I read t-shirt catalogs. That's one of my guilty pleasures. And this one said, "Sometimes I open my mouth and my mother comes out." Amazing. But I also discovered that after the parents died, I still had issues. Absolutely interesting that I still had issues that I needed to work out with parents. Again, largely my mom, because she loomed so large in my life. You'll see in this picture, she's holding my sister back, and my sister is looking like she's ready to fly to the moon. Me, I'm just kind of at the bottom of this wonderful thing. And dad in the background, with his workman's face, white forehead, ruddy, sun-weathered cheeks, grounding the family. This is an interesting photo of our group. But I had issues, and I needed to work those out, and so I realized that my mom and my dad are gone, so how can I work that out. And so, I have wrestled with that for several years now and have made a lot of peace. And I'm really happy for that. Um, my mom was very controlling. She was an unarrested alcoholic. There were boundary issues with her. I remember when I was serving the cathedral in Portland, Maine, getting a call at 1:30 in the morning, jarring me out of bed, expecting something awful had happened. And my mom in New Mexico, as she was only 11:30, decided to call me because, as she said, you never call. And I, had to say, well, Mom, it's 1:30 here. This isn't a good time to call. And she gave me some lip back. And I said, Mom, cool it. And terminated the conversation. The next day, I get a call from my dad chewing me out for having told my mom to cool it at 1:30 in the morning, my time. Um, and he had patched through a long distance call from his two-way radio on his pickup in the Ute Mountain Indian Reservation, where he was tending gas and oil wells, all the way to Portland, Maine, to chew on the ear of his son about stirring up trouble in his household. And I sit there and clucked along. Well, that wasn't it. Next, I get a call from the pastor of their church, the First Presbyterian Church in Farmington, New Mexico, and he's going on about it. And I tried to tell him that it wasn't an appropriate call at 1:30 my time in the morning, and maybe I could have said something other than cool it, but that's what happened. And that things like that went on for a while. And one of the things that finally Judy and I realized that when it came to dealing with issues of my parents, if she had an issue, she would tell me, and I would deal with my parents, and she would put up with whatever I dealt, and vice versa. If I had an issue with one of her parents, I would speak to her, and she would deal with it, and I would put up with whatever she did with hers. But when it got down to it, the thing that was most helpful was for me to start to look at my parents with gentler, kinder eyes, and to forgive them for being human, for having shortcomings, for not being the perfect parent that maybe, I secretly wanted, but to accept them for the human beings that they were and to love them, because honestly, they gave me a lot of gifts, a lot of love, and the stuff for a lot of life and stories and that sort of thing. And one of the things I learned in the process of all of this is that expectations, when we have expectations of each other, my mom had a lot of expectations of me that I didn't meet. And expectations are a down payment on future disappointments. But accepting each other for the flawed humans that we are, leads to a greater and happy, more satisfied relationship. Another way that I think we can honor our parents is to listen to the stories. When I grew up, we didn't have television, but the families got together and we sat around on Sunday afternoons into the evening and told stories. And I remember as a kid requesting certain stories to be retold. And it was a wonderful time of hearing and learning. This is Tom and Mary Riley, my paternal grandparents, the slide here. And it amazes me that they came across from St. Louis in a covered wagon to East Texas. Now, as a kid, I thought the covered wagons were the stuff of other people. Uh, but no, they came across and they settled in East Texas. They were sharecroppers. They were dirt poor. This woman, Mary, had 14 children, 12 of whom survived. My dad was the next to the youngest. He got the name of his dad. This is George Thomas Riley, but he went by Tom. And, you know, they had this huge family, which was an economy. My dad quit school in the 5th grade to go to work for the family to help make ends meet. And my dad had an experience that led him to be a little less racist than people generally were at this time, because the African American family living next down the road from them at one point shared animal protein with the Riley family. And the animal protein, mind you, was possum. But my dad couldn't put all Black people into the negative box as a result of that. And that's a part of the riches of that story. And I think that, with the resources that we have now, learning our parents' story and the what shaped and formed them, especially what they had to do as children, is a wonderful way of honoring our parents. Now, as we come to the finish line of a life, there are challenges. I love this cartoon. One day, son, this will all be yours. Looking at the garage. My garage has been an issue for me for some time, and I finally have pitched out enough stuff, donated enough stuff to get a car in the garage. It's a 2-car garage, and now I can get 1 car in, and I still have work to do. And part of it is, in the course of a lifetime, we accumulate a lot of stuff. And after my father-in-law died in a fire in his condo, and my wife and I had to go and deal with all of his stuff, which included a pantry full of canned goods that were so hot that they exploded. And we had a lot of stuff, and we lost things that we wish we still had, the photographs and some of that. But, all of a sudden, all that he had was ours, and we had to deal with it. So part of my way of helping to honor my children, to flip it over, is to start giving. Now, one of the things that's funny about this is that my in-laws would periodically come visit us from the high desert in Lancaster and fill up their car with stuff out of their garage and come down and give it to us, which is largely to me. And, I ended up with a lot of things that I didn't really want and didn't have room for. And so I've learned about donating to Salvation Army and Goodwill, and I've become good donation customers for them. I keep a donation box working in the garage at all time. But we have to finish up with the stuff of our life, because as a blues player said, you never see a hearse with luggage on the top. We do not take this stuff with us as we come to the finish line. Now, the finish line, again, we have things that we need to make peace with as we come to the end of our life. We didn't do all that we wanted to do. We didn't see all that we wanted to see, and so on. So I have a handout for you of some things you might do. Make a parent list. Make a list of 5 to 10 things about your mom or dad that gift bless you. and make a list of 5 to 10 things about your mom, dad that hurt you or drive you crazy. These are important things to get some clarity and focus on. It allows you, if you need to forgive things, um, it helps you to do that. But it's always good to remember that we were gifted with life, with support. What is it that helped us get where we are now? There was a lot of love and a lot of energy that blesses us from them. But there are those things that drove us crazy. And again, there are times when I don't open my mouth and my dad comes out, but I go on what our family called a tear. I get upset about something, so I decide to clean it up and do it and get it done and get out of the way because I'm going to do it. And everybody has learned to just get out of the way and let it happen. And these lists, revise them periodically. And if you have living parents, look at these lists before you engage with them about important and difficult things. Now, Dr. Felder in his book had 3 best comeback lines for when your parents are getting in your business. 1, if your parent attacks you verbally or belittles you, you can say, stop. I don't appreciate being talked to this way. Let's start again. Second one, Mom, Dad, I don't know you don't want to hurt me, but when you say do whatever, it hurts. So let's start again. Mom or Dad, I care about you and I want to do what works for both of us. So let's talk about this calmly and come up with something we both feel good about. Now note that these are all 3 I statements. There are other things that we can do. There are trigger words that we need to train our ears to hear. Trigger words being you. When we come on and say, you did this, you did that, it's an attack. And it puts person in a defensive posture. Coulda, woulda, shoulda. You always, you never. My mom would say, you never call. And at one point she told me, you always were a selfish person. And that's true. Human beings are selfish. It's the way we stay alive. But man, it hurt at the time she attacked me with it. The question, why? Why did you stop beating your wife? Again, it puts people in a defensive posture. What's helpful or useful? I'm confused. Help me understand. And I'm not happy. Now, that last one is a little manipulative, but it works. When you say, I'm not happy, people tend to want to say, okay, it's my job to make him happy. Well, no, it isn't. But it really gets things going. And then finally, mini journaling. How to deal, especially with a deceased parent, when you have an issue that's lingering and lurking. You start by listing your history with that person in 8 to 10 stepping stones, which are really just a little life history from the beginning to now and what were the important steps along the way. And then write a letter, have a conversation with that person where you write both sides of the conversation. And it's amazing what spills out of us and the healing that can occur in doing that. And all of this is for us to make peace with and to honor our parents and to increase the joy and satisfaction of our lives and to have the best possible relationships with parents, if you are one, to have with your parents if you are a child. And if you are a child, you of course have parents. And if you are a parent, how to deal with your children, especially your adult children. So those are my thoughts and my sharings about honoring your parents. It's a wonderful and important thing. And again, I have made a lot of progress in making peace with my parents, and enjoy the gifts and the blessings that they have bestowed upon me. Thanks be to God.